Yo, what's up YouTube? So today we're gonna be talking about another monster, and this time from a different franchise. Today we're gonna be looking at the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise and talking about the Mystical Elf, and some cool facts and secrets and lore about the character that you might have missed. And of course, her many appearances throughout the video games. So yeah, from teaming up with the Blue Eyes White Dragon, to being a princess of a magical kingdom, here is every time the Mystical Elf has appeared in games and media. So the very first ever physical media of a Mystical Elf ever was actually not done by Konami or the TCG, but instead it was done by Namco Bandai. You see, Mystical Elf was actually released by Bandai on August 1st, 1998 as part of the Bandai Yu-Gi-Oh! Generation 1 set of cards. And I guess these were like prototypes cause 1 year later Konami released the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in 1999, 1 year after the Bandai version. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelist of the Roses. Did you know that there's this stigma about elves always being sacrificed in Yu-Gi-Oh! Games for stronger monsters? And this was actually made apparent even in the TCG. For instance, there's the dancing elves that get sacrificed for mystical elves that's pretty much baked into the game's lore. Then there's a Celtic guardian who's also another elf who gets sacrificed for a dark magician or summoned skull. And I believe in the Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie Pyramid of Light movie, Yugi sacrifices the Gemini elf as a tribute summon for the dark magician. Yeah, like elves in Yu-Gi-Oh! Pretty much only exist to be sacrificed, like that's their only role here. Well, that's maybe because elves are just the weaker kind of cards you would often get in the earlier part of the series. Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monster Coliseum. In Capsule Monster Coliseum, you can find the Mystical Elf fighting alongside with Ishizu Ishtar during the campaign in the never-ending sitemap. She also has a special ability called Onori Prayer, which pretty much goes with her lore and design, since she is always looking like she's praying in most of her many designs, which was actually censored, by the way. I'll get to more of that on censorship later in the video, but let's move on. Dark Elf. So the Dark Elf card was actually added to the earlier days of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime as a dark corrupted counterpart to the Mystical Elf. While Mystical Elf is a light monster with 800 attack points and 2000 defense points, Dark Elf is the opposite, with her stats being 2000 attack points and 800 defense points. But because she is a baddie, she requires you to pay like 1000 life points every time you declare an attack. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Falsebound Kingdom, Cosmo Queen. So in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Falsebound Kingdom for the Nintendo GameCube, the lore expands further for both the Mystical Elf and the Dark Elf, as they both serve as fusion material to summon the Cosmo Queen. But later on, Konami did expand on her lore with dedicated support cards, including monsters like Cosmo Queen and the Queen of Prayers, which is an even more powerful version of the Cosmo Queen. Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel, Bubbly Elf. So in the spin-off games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel, many classical cards received stylistic redrawn artwork, and when Mystical Elf was introduced into Rush Duel, she got her very own modified artwork as well. She was actually introduced as a physical playable monster card in the Rush Duel format to support the newly designed Bubble Era archetype, which is a water-themed deck used by Mimi. So yeah, the Bubbly Elf is a level 2 light aqua type monster, and she was introduced in the deck modification pack known as Shocking Lightning Attack. And you might have noticed that, yeah, this is a parody of the classical Mystical Elf card, which is represented in a way to look like Japan's 1980s Bubble Era, which is a reference to Japanese bubble economy where Yakuza types would often find themselves during these sorts of parties. And the card description straight up says that she is no longer a delicate girl no more. While poised and collected, she's always down to party with her pager pals with Lamoon the Party Princess. Princess Adina from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. There's this princess called Adina, and yes, she was modeled to look like Mokuba. Well, according to the English version that is, because in the original Japanese dub, the Big Five made her look like Mokuba because Mokuba kept getting kidnapped all the time as a joke. But anyways, back to the point here, Princess Adina's true form is actually the monster Mystical Elf, which was a pretty huge reveal at the time. And for those of you who have played the game Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, Mokuba has a unique line of dialogue for when he uses the card Gift of a Mystical Elf, which is obviously a callback to Princess Adina's true identity, being the Mystical Elf. And there's the fact that Mokuba gets a skin as a Princess Adina skin in that game.
I activate my trap card, Gift of the Mystical Elf. Let's go, Princess Adina. Or should I say, Mystical Elf?
TCG. So there are several other cards within the trading card game that reference the Mystical Elf sometimes. Well, for one, there is a manga-only exclusive spell card for the Mystical Elf called Vaccination, where the artwork depicts the Mystical Elf in a medical-themed spell, which neutralizes the effect of all virus cards. And no, this card was never adapted into a physical TCG card. So aside from appearing on the vaccination artwork, a mystical elf famously appears in the artwork of several other support and spell cards, including Gift of the Mystical Elf, which is highly unique because it's the only card in the entire game that actually depicts the mystical elf with her eyes open. There's also the Lineage of Destruction spell card that shows her in the background with a giant soldier of stone, and there's the other spell card Gold Moon Coin, which famously features a mystical elf on the glowing crescent moon on the center of its artwork. Alright, let's talk about the anime. So, during the Duelist Kingdom arc, Yugi summons the mystical elf to boost the attack points of a mind-controlled Blue Eyes White Dragon, which I'm sure Yugi was just straight up cheating here. I mean, Yugi would just straight up make up the rules on the spot in earlier episodes of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime. But yeah, this so-called unwritten anime effect was later memorialized years later in the form of an actual card, called the Mystical Elf White Lightning. And of course, we have to talk about censorship. Alright, so Mystical Elf was actually censored when it was brought over to the English Yu-Gi-Oh anime and card game, because you see, the censorship primarily involved her name and background details to remove direct religious references. And yeah, in the original Japanese version of the game, the card is actually known as Holy Elf, and yeah, they changed it because of strict policies against religious terminology in Western releases, so the name was changed to Mystical Elf. Oh, and in the English dub of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime, any dialogue mentioning Holy Elf was actually dubbed over to call her Mystical Elf.
やられるかトラップ発動ホーリーエルフの祝福フィールドに存在するモンスターの数かける300ポイントのライフを回復する
Mystical Elf lore from the anime. So the mystical elf has lived for thousands of years, and due to her long lifespan and defensive prowess, she does serve as a reliable defense for those who summon her, which is pretty much what those 2,000 life points are for. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, but that Bandai mystical elf that I mentioned earlier, yeah, she was a level 5 monster with 2,500 defense points, instead of the original's 2,000. Now that I think about it, I think there was an episode where the judge monster summons a mystical elf, I believe. And yeah, that pretty much does it for this video on the many faces of the mystical elf seen throughout the entire anime, manga, and other various types of media. But anyways, with that out of the way, I'll catch you guys next time.
Again, I'll lay a card face down, and I'll use the mystical elf in attack mode. Plus, this book of secret arts will raise its attack and defense power by 300 points. My turn is over.
Patience